Well, good morning. The calendar page has turned to December, which means the year is rapidly slipping away. The story of what Upper Michigan has to offer the world gets a big boost this month. We'll tell you more about that right now.
From TV6, this is The Ryan Report. Here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, our guest this morning has been a tireless promoter of Upper Michigan. He's the owner and operator of Pictured Rocks Cruises in Munising, served for many years on the Natural Resources Commission, and was appointed in 2014 to the Michigan Travel Commission. He played a major role in a project that will help spread the positive story of life in Upper Michigan. This morning we'll talk about that and more with John Madigan. John, welcome back to the Ryan Report.
Thank you, Don. It's always a pleasure coming here.
Good to have you with us. I want to talk a little bit more about you and your business, but first, you've been part of a really huge project, and that's the fact that there's a new article out now in Delta Sky magazine about the Upper Peninsula. Tell us, how did the project come about?
Well, approximately probably a year and a half ago, I was contacted by the Marquette folks about the Marquette article that was published last December in Delta Sky. And they were kind enough to reach out to our community and say, do you want to help be involved with this article? And I thought it was a good opportunity, and our board thought it was a good opportunity to partner with Marquette and tell our story. And I think it went over very well, and it was a very well segment in the Delta Sky magazine. And Don, after that, I started thinking a little bit, Marquette's got a lot of assets to talk about, and we think we have a good asset to talk about. But the concept of branding the Upper Peninsula and letting everybody tell their story of all the assets in the Upper Peninsula, and if we could all unite and bring that all to a head and togetherness, and we all participate in a story branding the Upper Peninsula, which has been my goal for many, many years. I've talked about branding. I think if we could brand the Upper Peninsula, the old story where all boats float higher if the water raises, I think is so critical.
Yeah, and you, as you say, you've talked about this for a long time. If we can promote the whole Upper Peninsula, everybody within the peninsula can benefit because there are so many things to see and do up here.
Absolutely. I mean, we have so many natural resource, iconic things in the Upper Peninsula that we can promote. And it wasn't just my thoughts on things, but not only the natural resources, but the lifestyle, the education, the health care, and the entrepreneurship. And when we started talking about this project, we thought, well, tourism is very important to it, but for us to really raise the boat and make an economic impact, we have to have those four pillars: the education, the quality of life, the entrepreneurial spirit for business, and the health care.
Yeah, let's talk about how important this is. How many people are going to see this article?
5 million.
5 million people?
Yes.
This goes on to every Delta Airlines flight everywhere.
Every domestic and foreign flight for the whole month of December, which is the second largest travel month in the airline business next to November.
Now this doesn't just happen, does it? There's a lot of work that went into making this happen.
Yes.
First of all, you have to have a lot of advertisers who are willing to advertise to help pay to get the content in the magazine?
Absolutely. A page in this magazine costs between $15,000 and $17,000, and we've got 31 pages of advertisement, probably roughly $500,000 worth of investment into this article across the Upper Peninsula.
How did you make that happen? Or not just you, but how did your organization make that happen?
Well, we talked about it early on. He said, really, to get the input, we have to have everybody in the Upper Peninsula feel part of it. So we held three meetings to start it off. We had one in Ontonagon, invited all the people in the Western UP to come. And at that meeting, we had 24 people show up of interest to promote this. And then we had one here in Marquette, and we probably had about the same 20 to 25 people. And we had one over in Sault Ste. Marie, and we had about 15 people. So that was the beginning of it. And then Delta Sky came up and attended those meetings, and We had to get a couple commitments early on, which Marquette and Munising were the two probably people that committed early on to get some type of volume. And then once that started happening, other people started committing to this. And I thought if we could get a 20 to 25 page spread of the Upper Peninsula, that would be the benchmark for being successful. But obviously we got a lot more buy-in than that.
Well beyond that. I just want to mention one, we don't have time to cover it all, but the opening line in the front page, "Welcome to Paradise." People come to the Upper Peninsula for the scenery and recreation. They stay for the business-friendly environment and healthy work-life balance. What a great start to
Absolutely.
selling the Upper Peninsula.
Absolutely.
And as you point out, even though your initial motivation is tourism, this is much more than tourism. It really talks about life in this area.
And we see it, Don, in our business in Munising. People come up and they always say, boy, I wish we could live here. Boy, I wish we could live here. I'd move here in a minute. You know, the quality of life. Now, is it the quality of life everybody's looking for? No, but it's the quality of life that a lot of people with families are looking for, that want a wholesome, fairly low crime, fairly reasonable housing prices, good education system, and a good healthcare system, and that entrepreneurial spirit, and pretty good workforce.
Okay. We'll talk more about this in a couple of minutes. I'll be back with some more conversation with John after we take this break. Talking this morning with John Madigan. John is with Pictured Rocks Cruises. He's also with the Michigan Travel Commission. John, before we leave talking about the book, we wound up with a 60-page article?
62 pages.
62 pages. Now, that's not typical, is it?
No. Delta Sky relayed to us that that is the second largest featured article that they have done in 13 years.
That's amazing. And it's really something I think that the UP can take pride in.
They are shocked that the Upper Peninsula with 300,000 people were able to be that involved in this article and generate that much interest. And everybody wanted to tell their story and talk about their assets and really promote not just the tourism but the economic benefit of the Upper Peninsula. And now with wireless becoming more and more prevalent in the Upper Peninsula, and you'll read in the article where people come up here and they're working remote to Los Angeles and to Seattle and to New York. So, and they're working right here out of the Upper Peninsula, right, and doing their job and living in a place that has a pretty high quality of life.
This doesn't just bring in tourists, it probably brings some new residents too, although some people may not say that's a good idea if we bring too many.
Well, we've been pretty stagnant for a long time in the Upper Peninsula.
And our population is kind of aging here,
yes,
so it's important. John, let's talk about you for a few minutes, just for the benefit of our audience. You're a Munising native,
yes,
born and raised there. You went to school at Northern.
Yes.
You were actually a school teacher for a while.
I was.
And you ran a construction company?
Yes.
And your family's been in the hardware business forever?
97 years.
And you're still actively involved with that?
I still go in, but my uncle runs it day to day. But 97 years in the same corner in Munising.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, you got interested in boats, didn't you?
Yes.
And not just little boats, but big boats. And wound up being part of Pictured Rocks Cruises, and now you run the show and you own the company.
Well, the company's owned by a number of shareholders, but
right,
I'm certainly a shareholder and the manager.
Okay. Why was that so important to you? Why did you really want to get into that?
Well, I don't know if I really wanted to get into it. My uncle asked me, geez, you know, if we're getting, we need some younger people around here, would you be interested in getting in the boat business? And I said, that sounds pretty interesting. And I joined up with the firm and took over the management of it probably 8-9 years ago, and it's been a good ride. It's been interesting. It's been a lot of hard work. There's been struggles. It's been very rewarding. I think we touch a lot of people. We touch people, and UP touches people in a way people don't realize. We see people coming back, you know, when they're getting old with their children, to come back and see the place that they came when they were children. We see people that, you know, been married here. We see people that have anniversaries here. We had a couple that came back this year. They were here on their anniversary 60 or 65 years ago to Munising and came back to take the cruise again. There's a lot of historical stuff that people do here when they're kids, and they want their children and their grandchildren to see it. It's generational.
And through the business, you kind of learned this idea that promoting the Upper Peninsula helped you too, didn't you?
Oh, promoting the Upper Peninsula is going to help everybody. It's going to help everybody. You know, and nobody loves competition. I mean, we all kind of get a little judgy on competition, but if we can band together and promote the Upper Peninsula and pool our resources like this article did, we're going to move the needle.
What kind of a year did you have at Pictured Rocks this year?
We were up about 3% in passenger count over last year, so we still had another successful year. You know, we've had. Oh, go ahead.
Are you noticing any trends as far as where the people are coming from? Does that change?
We're getting a lot more folks of Indian descent. We're getting a lot of European folks. We're starting to get a lot of people out of the Michigan region. And we take very close demographics of the people coming to Pictured Rocks. I think it's becoming more, Pictured Rocks and the UP is becoming more than just a Michigan, maybe a closely Midwest. We're starting to impact other places that are coming here and spending vacation. The average person, we take a survey done every year, the average person that comes into Pictured Rocks, and I'm sure it's the same for other places, spends 3 days in Munising.
Okay. And that means a lot of money being spent.
A lot of motel rooms and a lot of restaurants and a lot of ancillary products.
And now it's coming from all over the world. You also have a Youper Day. You've had one. Is that?
Oh.
How does that work out?
Well, we get about, last year, about 2,500 Youpers came. Wow. We had a little weather issue. We probably would have done 3,000. It's Pictured Rocks Days. It's a festival put on by the chamber in town, and we give free boat rides. And it's a huge economic impact for our region for that second week in June. People come and people come back. People come every year to it now. People make a vacation out of it. You know, the campgrounds fill up. People from the Ontonagon. We get every county in the UP comes, and like I said, we get about 2,500 to 3,000 people over the 2 days.
Is it going to be again this year?
Sure.
Scheduled again this year?
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to talk about some of your work on the Michigan Travel Commission, but let's take a break. Back with more on the Ryan Report in 2 minutes. Again, our guest this morning is John Madigan. John, you were appointed, you spent many years on the Natural Resources Commission, first of all, but then you were appointed to the Michigan Travel Commission in 2014. What are the responsibilities of that group?
Well, we have a strategic plan for the state. We have, obviously, we're involved with the Pure Michigan campaign, which is a huge impact on tourism for not only the Upper Peninsula, but the state of Michigan. It's one of the highest recognized branding state tourism promotions in the country. A lot of people are taking advantage of what Michigan has done and trying to incorporate that into their states. We go around and we see different attractions. We talk about strategic planning for the state and getting out and talking to people and seeing, you know, how we can make a difference in promoting the area.
You have a meeting coming up in a few days. What kind of things will be on the agenda, for example?
We're really working on the strategic plan. What is the future of the travel commission, and how are we going to impact the planning of the state's tourism importance going forward? I was on the website committee that picked the website folks that are just redid the Pure Michigan website, which was a major undertaking, and we're doing stuff like that. So we'll talk about the website, we'll talk about upcoming events. This, the article here really had its beginning at the Travel Commission, where I brought the idea up to branding the Upper Peninsula, which they participated in helping us get it done.
And the internet is really changing tourism as we know it.
Huge. It's a huge. With mobile devices, it's really becoming impactful on the tourism business.
How important is tourism to the state of Michigan?
Well, arguably, it's for sure number 3 in economic benefit, and it could be a push made for number 2. Obviously, manufacturing is number 1, and agriculture and tourism are 2 and 3. But I think it brings one of the things tourism does in Michigan is we can export those assets. You know, we're not going to export the Pictured Rocks or the Porcupine Mountains or the Sioux Locks
Right.
or the bike trails. So it really gives some stability to that, to the economic development of Michigan.
I was thinking about that in the sense that manufacturing obviously is the key, but manufacturing tends to be clustered generally in metropolitan areas.
Yes.
Tourism provides opportunity for businesses in the more rural areas of the state.
Absolutely. I think we've seen that this year in Tequamato Falls, the first time that Highway M123 has had backups of a half a mile getting into Tequamato Falls. Kitchikikippi and Manistee, because their attendance has gone up substantially. I think the Porcupine Mountains have had an increase. Obviously, Copper Harbor and the Copper Country is, I think, is something that can really benefit going forward. I think that's a unique part of Upper Michigan up there. The bike trails, and then the brewery, the home brews or the micro brews, that's generating another type of tourism.
Yeah.
Then we have the winter sled races. I mean, there's just so many things Upper Peninsula offers here for tourists.
The festivals have really become popular now too in many areas.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you thought about, has the state thought about more coordinated efforts for tourism? For example, obviously what the DNR does affects tourism, what other branches of the state does affects tourism?
So Don, one of the things when I went from the Department of Natural Resources Commission, or the Natural Resource Commission over to the Travel Commission, we sat down and we have an annual meeting between the Travel Commission and the Natural Resource Commission where we talk about parks and where we talk about sharing that person coming to the Pure Michigan website and getting them over to the campgrounds, where we talk about the fishing, tourism. Fishing is a big tourism draw. We talk about hiking and ski trails and trails, the trail coming that the governor's trying to get from Detroit to Ironwood. All those types of things are intertwined with the Pure Michigan and with the DNR, and we're working together on that. And we have an annual meeting where we talk about those things.
Occasionally we have some issues with the legislature rethinking Pure Michigan funding. Is that pretty secure at the moment, or?
Well, I don't know if anything's ever secure for sure, but I know the Upper Peninsula contingent and the people, I think, below the bridge, and overall, they understand tourism. We've had many senators and representatives, and our state senator and our have been to Munising and saw they have to come to Munising or they have to go to Tequamato Falls, and if they can get there and touch and feel and talk to the people, then we really have them on our side. And then when people are saying negative things about the Pure Michigan brand and about this, and they go to Munising and see 400 or 500 people there waiting to get on a boat, or they go to the Tequamato Falls and the parking lot's full, or they go to Kitchikikippi, or they go to Porcupine Mountains, or they go up to the Copper Country, or they come to bike trails, and they can see the impact. That's what's going to make us have that funding going forward.
Well, that's great. And this again, the Delta Sky magazine, a 62-page article on the Upper Peninsula, great achievement. John, thanks for coming in this morning and talking about it.
Don, thank you.
Okay, I'll be back with some other thoughts for you after we take this break. Well, here we are in December, and what they say is true. The older we get, the faster time goes. It doesn't seem that long ago that I was waiting for spring to arrive. With November in the rearview mirror, we know that Thanksgiving and the madness of Black Friday are behind us. But we're still in that busy Christmas shopping season. Didn't stop to count how many shopping days are left, but I can tell you that Christmas Eve is 3 weeks from today. But thinking of Christmas shopping, I want to share a few thoughts with you about growing up in Ishpeming. I have a hunch that what I experienced back then was probably similar in a lot of other communities around the Upper Peninsula. You see, when I was a kid, we didn't have Walmart, Target, Shopko, or any of the big discount stores that are so popular today. Most of the businesses were owned by a local store owner, which meant that even though we had some very nice stores, the selection was nothing like it is now. Being a kid, my interest was toys, and there just weren't that many places selling toys back then. As I think about it, we did have the dime store. That's what a lot of people called Woolworths in those days. We also had the J.J. Newberry store, which was pretty much like Woolworths. But even their selection of things for kids was somewhat limited. There was Gilmore Jenkins' store, and if I'm remembering it right, and as strange as it might sound, his business was a combination greenhouse and toy store. But there still just weren't that many places to buy good toys. And that's why what happened as the Christmas season approached was so exciting if you were a kid. Because at that time of year, 2 other stores would open up their annual Christmas Toyland. One of the stores was Jackson's Hardware, the other was the Qual and Qual Furniture Store. Just in time for the holiday shopping season, they would open the Toyland on the 2nd floor of their stores. A visit to either store could put a smile on any kid's face. Everywhere you looked, there was nothing but toys. Well, actually, there was more. The Toyland was also brightly adorned with Christmas lights and decorations. You know, it probably wouldn't seem like much today, but back then, it was like walking into a kid's wonderland. Today we have stores that offer far more toys than we ever had back then, but there's no one, at least around here, offering the same magical feeling a kid could get when their parents took them to visit the Christmas Toyland. I have to admit these memories are from a long time ago, and they're the memories of things seen through the eyes of a kid. But for me, they're very pleasant memories. And while they may not have been quite as magical as they seemed, they will always be special to me. Of course, if we keep heading down the path we appear to be on with internet shopping, the magic will be completely gone. And I'll just be gone for a minute. Well, the Today Show is anxiously waiting in the wings, so we have to make way for them. Keep in mind, if you missed this show or want to watch it again, it will be available at uppermichigansource.com starting at about noon tomorrow. The Delta Sky Magazine feature on Upper Michigan will be a big boost for this area. Thanks to John Madigan for coming in today to provide an update on that project and talk about the importance of tourism in Upper Michigan. And thank you for tuning in. Let's make a date to meet here again next Sunday morning.